And welcome back here to Adobe Live to another wonderful session with the one and only Nadine Kolodziey. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Nadine. How are you?
I'm super good. A bit warm. Finally, we have some summer. Yeah.
Off to
and ready.
A great start. But before we get started, first of all, let's get us some music in. Music, hello? Mm-hmm. Very quiet today. Very quiet music today. Okay, that's fine. Because I have a couple of things to tell you at home before we get started. First of all, if you're watching this anywhere but on Behance, do make sure to come on over to behance.net/Adobe Live. That's, once again, I can put that over here, behance.net/Adobe Live, because there's a whole chat. And if you're chatting on YouTube, you can't take part of that. I mean, I can't see your messages, so come on over to Behance and join the party. And if this is your first time joining us on Behance, do say hello and let us know where you're watching from. I'd love to know. And, of course, to the community who has been with us every day in every stream, give them a warm welcome if you see some new faces in the chat. So, we already have a couple of people joining us in the chat on Behance, such as Andreas and Caroline and Jürgen and Oliver and Sean and Stuart, and they're all saying hello and hey and hi everyone and hey Oliver, hey Jürgen, DJ Tim.
Wow.
And it's already
DJ
a fun party in the chat. So, Sasha, I think you're new. I haven't seen your name before. Maybe I have. I'm just bad at remembering names. Long-time viewer, first-time chatter. Welcome, Sean. He's not the first-time viewer. Not even close. All right, okay. So let's not waste too much time with my stuff, because we're not here because I'm here. We're here because you're here today, Nadine. So for those who don't know you, who are you and what are you doing here?
Well, this can be answered. No, I'm super happy actually to share my work today with you. My name is Nadine Kolodziey and I'm an artist based in Berlin and Frankfurt in Germany. And some of you might know me from my time as a creative resident. So I have been a resident 2018 and 19, which was also kind of my first time approaching augmented reality. So everything basically started with Adobe. So I'm always super happy to keep you updated on what's going on and how you can translate your visions and ideas into nice experiences. So this is kind of what we will be focusing on today. And here you can see a small overview simply on my Instagram. I don't have really a... Yeah?
Oh, 1 second.
Sorry. No problem. Yeah, I'm super fast. I'm
there
always
now
stressing
we can see
out Tim here. Sorry.
All right. We can see Instagram, which is at
if
Nadine
it's too
Kolodziey.
fast, let me know.
Yep.
Right. If you add me, I'm super happy because I always like to share and include the community and also get some intel from you. So also for today, I'm super happy to answer your questions. Like bomb Tim in the chat with your question marks, and I'm happy to answer and give some insights. So my background is not really 3D or coding or something very techy. I studied classic fine arts, and my background is actually illustration and installation. You can see it here where I had my final creative residency show, and this is the actual display. You can walk in and you can have an experience. And for me, illustration was always nice and kind of like a strong base, a part of me, but I didn't want to stop in making beautiful pictures. I really like to invite the people into my stories, into my worlds, and with installation, kind of you could do that, and you had a place which is, the world you created, which sounds amazing because it is quite cool. And the thing with augmented reality for me is that you can do that in a more accessible, democratic, also sustainable way, because to build a display, of course, it's expensive. You need a venue. It's maybe limited by time. Maybe it's only there for a week or two. So it's really nice to actually have augmented reality as this really big solution for my approach to create experiences rather than images. And this is also kind of what we want to do today. And yeah, from my, yes, it's a lot just we will do.
Very briefly, the keen-eyed among you may have noticed that we have had a very similar stream quite a while ago.
Yeah, true.
So this stream today won't be exactly the same. We will also show some cool things. But since things didn't quite work out last time the way we wanted to, we do have some backups today. So in case something goes wrong, we will show you some cool things. You will see some really fun worlds. We will actually show one of them very soon, so stay tuned.
Yeah. Yeah, last time Tim had the pleasure to become my 3D apprentice. So he had to take over and do the live. I think it was entertaining.
It was fun.
But of course, today we tried to... Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, I think it was fun for me as well. Maybe we should do like a design spontaneous challenge so nobody knows and you just have to freestyle. Yeah. So this time we will look into creating worlds. As you see, I'm doing that quite a lot. And one project we took a look at last time is the spring walk. I would quickly play the video so that you can get a small impression. I don't know if we have sound on the share
We're about to find out.
If not, it's not. Okay, let's see it. Yeah, and this was an experience I built with Aero, and also Aero will be kind of the key program we take a look at for this stream. And it was all about spring and return to the normal life. And in general, I'm interested in this alternative realities and to rewrite your world or make it your own. And with AR, that's what you can do. So we will kind of go in that direction and build something like this, even if you have no experience in that field. And maybe some of you also saw my latest projects, which I wanted to quickly share with you. So this was a campaign for Apple, and the idea is that the world is coming back after lockdown and kind of revisiting. And also I've been working on a
just for a second, you just I did work for Apple, like wait, huh? Okay. One moment, please. Because true. I was browsing the Apple site and I just saw, wait, I know that person. Yeah. I'm like, oh yes, that's Nadine.
I know. It's a bit weird because then the face is everywhere and you're like, oof. I might blush on the side. No, it's actually the campaign is called Behind the Mac, and the idea is quite nice to just show the creatives behind the devices and what amazing work they get done on their computers. And I think it was really a nice idea since we collaborated with Snapchat to create very immersive lenses with it. So you can kind of do a virtual gardening and place your plants everywhere. On my Instagram, you can also find the links to that. It's free, but it's on Snapchat. Who's not a Snap user, it's worth it to test it. And it just shows how also big brands have augmented reality on their screen. So it's out there, it's on high demand, and it's really nice, I think, to start now and start with the kind of second wave of augmented reality and translate maybe your worlds or visions into that medium. So I think it's paying off big time. It did for me. And I would like to share that intel with you and be aware that with augmented reality and also for me 3D creation as a non-3D artist, let's put it like that, or I'm not educated in that field from my university background, it's always, I think, nice to find your own ways to something. And maybe you have a weird, approach on how to use the programs or a weird workflow. But I think everything which makes your story shine and makes it colorful and shareable to others, it's definitely worth it. And we will also embrace a lot of small errors and imperfections here. This stream is not about creating something crazy techy, but still really overwhelming from the final experiences. And we will also create a character like this one. And we will do that without proper 3D building. So you can do that even though you might have never touched a 3D program before. And I will, show you how this is done.
Accepted.
And for that one, that's the challenge.
Speaking of
and
apps,
I will give you a quick preview how.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which apps will we be using today if folks want to participate at home?
Yes.
So which apps will it be?
Yes, it's kind of, let's check like this. So we will start kind of like my journey has been from illustration with 2D, so with Illustrator, to 3D and AR. So we will work with Illustrator, Photoshop, Dimension, Blender, Mixamo, and Aero. It's a lot. It's a full menu for you guys.
Wow.
But I think you can handle it. I hope you're hungry
for this mix. We're about to find out. And just briefly in the chat also, this won't be the same. We'll show some cool stuff. I didn't mean it like that, Sean. Last time was cool too, but we had some slight issues. So the little guy you made was cool.
Actually,
don't put yourself down. Thanks, Sean. And yes, sorry.
I also wanted to mention that we can also share a link for some of the 2D assets I will be creating with you. So if you don't have your tablet on hand, or maybe you're walking somewhere and you're just watching the stream, you can also use those assets and try it later. So there is an opportunity to have some materials also and test it for yourselves. And I think Tim will share the link for the assets with you in the chat. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So
let's start.
Let's dive right in.
With the beginnings, I think. So Illustrator is the place where everything's starting. And here I put my artboard somewhere else because I really actually like to not draw on the artboard for the beginning. You just choose a color. And what we want to collect is now, we have to think of a world or a stage we want to put our story in. And I think it's really nice in Illustrator to kind of have it as your DNA base. So everything we will be drawing, we will draw it here. So I don't do something super fancy. It's just like some plans, and you can do that as home as well. I think it's always, super nice to just dive into it. And I think maybe I have a weird way of using Illustrator. Maybe everyone on lives
that's not weird, is it?
Not technical.
I mean,
for example, I leave it open.
If you were about to do photo editing in Illustrator, I would say like, are you sure about that? But I don't think that's weird. Like, hello, today we're editing videos in Illustrator, frame by frame.
Oops. Now I have a
that's nice.
magnetic line here. What is this one?
And Caroline says, whatever works for you. I totally agree. And in the chat, maybe let us know. What are your skill set? Do you know 3D apps? Have you worked with 3D apps before? Have you tried Aero on your phone, perhaps? Or on your tablet? Or desktop? Because until now, I've seen so many users using Aero, and they just put like an object on the table. And I feel like Aero is so much more than that, than just putting like a nice sphere or figure on the table. You can do, like you showed doing that walk of, what was it called? Sorry. The walk of nature?
Walk.
Spring walk, yes.
Spring walk,
Walk of nature, close enough. No, spring walk.
Close enough.
That was like a whole world. And you could walk around.
Yeah, like the idea... and the idea today is also to combine animation, sound also. And actually here I prepared something for you because I'm a bit worried if we can make everything in time. So here you can see a little preview.
It's like a cooking show. Here's what I prepared earlier.
Here's what I prepared earlier. I think it's always nice to think in layers, because what you can do with, for some reason I can't touch it anymore. What is happening? Let's see. Yes.
Oh no, things are going wrong already.
We'll be fine.
Isn't that somehow part of the stream? You know, this is how you know it's live. Mistakes happen.
It's really live.
Live and alive.
We made some recordings in case, but
Yeah.
it will be okay, I think. Yeah, so basically it's not like something super crazy, but I think it's always nice for me to get kind of a feeling for the atmosphere. And I would really like to go here for something which is kind of like when you're taking a journey and you arrive somewhere and you have this feeling of, wow, there's so much to explore. And
Right.
yeah, maybe you just have to figure it out. Like, what is there? I want to see everything. So I tend to draw a lot of leaves at the beginning. You can also, of course, add some gradients or be more playful with that. But we will keep it simple today since we have a lot on our plate.
And Sean says, what?
And I think
I must be doing something wrong. I use AI for my photo editing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and yes, so here I prepared a slide for you. We will build the world as a mood and we work in 2D, but this actually will be 3D later using Photoshop. So as you can see here, the mountains are layered, kind of like they have like a certain depths to them. And I think it's super nice to actually think of a layered version of, a landscape to really play with that. And if you take a look here, it's bumpy for some reason.
So
if
this
you
will
take
be
a look here,
this will be different from these, so to say, postcard versions where you have like the layers behind each other. So this will actually be 3D, or how will that work?
Yeah. No, it will be in layers. So today we will do a combination of 2D and 3D. I might quickly switch actually to the browser because for some reason it's a little bit...
Would this be the point where we start one of the recordings?
Yeah, maybe actually, because for some reason it's not reacting. The problem is if you have a lot of 3D also to show, and I uploaded a character and mixed them already, sometimes it's a bit glitchy. And as you can see, I can't untap the grass. So that's why we made a recording of this part. I made that yesterday in real time live, so you can have a small insight in that. And I stick with you and answer all the questions. And yeah, I think that would be okay for this one, since for some reason the leaf got frozen. I can't touch it.
Okay, that's okay. You can, so you see what's happening. I think you can stop your screen share. So actually you know what's going on. There we are.
And we jump over.
All right, so
that's good.
Now we're in full motion.
Perfect.
And illustration. So should I skip forward maybe a bit?
Yeah. Maybe a bit, but yeah, maybe I can just talk you through it. So actually always when I'm crafting or building, I think of kind of like ingredients. So I place everything in Illustrator and I use it kind of like a full plate. So I'm collecting plants, clouds, the grounds, everything, maybe characters I could use. And it's always good to kind of think of it as a library. I mean, in the CC ecosystem, you already work a lot with libraries, but it's also nice within the file to really prep all your ingredients here. And as you see, if you draw the leaves as singulars, you can also combine them to new trees or combinations. And yeah, I think that's always rewarding because I sometimes tend to use some of the collections I made before for other projects, especially if I get super tight deadlines, then you can jump directly in and you have kind of like a prep meal of ingredients you can directly use for the next steps. And since we want to create an immersive experience, always good to think of fronts and backs, like there is a background and a foreground. So it's always good to have small parts like the hole in the rocks down here, so you can see through it. And also I think clouds are helping to create the illusion of depth, since there is like some clouds might be in the front, some might be partly overlapping. And I think this is always creating kind of a nice feeling of really a landscape or really like a horizon you can look into. And this is what I was playing around here. And if we go a little bit
I already get a question from Caroline who asks, is there a reason you work on a dark background? Because mostly the canvas of Illustrator is white. And I think is it the one in the center? That tiny white square? Is that the canvas? No.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah?
That's the thing. I don't really use the artboards. I'm just working in the whole board. So I'm working on the...
How large are those files? I mean, if that's the original artboard, like that's then huge, is it?
Yeah, it's quite big.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe that's why it's so bumpy from the...
I mean... That
might be the solution.
I mean, if you're dealing like with 7 meters by 8 meters of artwork, then yeah, that could be one of the... It shouldn't be, but could be.
Actually, I have to stretch the limit quite a lot, since when you're doing installations, you have to do it in real scale. Yeah, because if it will be cut from a CNC and everything, then you have to kind of go in the correct proportions to get the feeling. So maybe that's
now that you say it,
but that's a good
makes sense
actually.
I mean, that would be
maybe
one
that's
of the
also
first,
why it's a bit slower.
That would be one of the first things why. I mean, you look at that. Yeah, you had like 13% at the moment. That's quite big. Okay, so
okay.
So that's the reason. So no, sorry. Did you answer the question? Why did you work on a dark background?
Sorry.
Did we answer that?
Yeah, I like it like that. Okay. It's good for the eyes, I think.
Okay. Right.
If that's answering the question. Yeah, and if we go a little bit further, I think we can. Yes. So this is quite interesting, since we will kind of try to take over the 3D options we have in Dimension. And what we prepare here are 2D assets to use kind of as a pattern on, for example, the characters we're building, but you could also, of course, customize assets you can find in the library. And here, for example, we want to get rid of all of those who look a bit shaky, and it's really about a very liquid workflow. And I also think it's nice to have kind of a color set for this one. I was orienting on the colors we had in the plans before, to give it all kind of one tone, or to have the feeling of the assets being related. And so this is kind of how I work. That's what I mean also with a bit like, I like to not mask and like to erase it, kind of like on your scrapbook. Maybe this is some leftovers from being more of an analog artist. But I actually really embrace the imperfections. So from my work, I actually like that it's very intuitive and not too polished. And those 2D assets actually will be in the package you can use. And I think it's quite nice to, kind of make the assets we have in the 3D collection your own. And this is something you can, of course, do with your own images, with your own visions, with your own color palettes. And I think it's really nice to have this opportunity to really, wrap it in your own feelings and ideas. And for this stream, I made 4 of those different patterns. There are different options, of course. You can later use them kind of as a sticker or wrap the whole object with it. And we will take a look at both options. So the idea is really to, kind of give you some tricks and tools in the hands, like tell you some tricks and tips how to kind of hijack what is already there and make it your own. Because the work you've seen, for example, the character I showed you, it's also made, I think, except for 3 objects completely with starter assets. And this is also something we will try to go for in a little bit. And from the,
No, quick question. Sorry, I have to interrupt you. There are questions. First of all, one question of mine is, those textures, do they have to be seamless? So you can put them next to another without any seams?
No.
Okay. That's cool.
You could do that, but for our case here, it's not necessary since it's not showing. Like if you would do something, for example, in the direction of packaging design, where it has to have some information on it, and you don't want to have that kind of stretched, then I would advise to do so. But since we're just kind of creating patterns which give a certain atmosphere to the whole, build, we are not really bound to that. And so for the patterns you see here, they're quite freely without the option of tiling.
All right, okay. And the second question by Stuart is, and I think we sort of answered this one already, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Can you add textures to those shapes? I think the one you showed earlier. And will they will that be able to be exported with with the objects in the new environment? So can you add textures and can you export them? Yes. Yes,
you can. And I will show you some tips and tricks how to do that, because textures are always the tricky part, because this is the moment where things get maybe more techy, where 3D artists do it like that. And if you're not familiar with it, it might be a pain. Sometimes I'm struggling in one translation for a longer time, and then it was super easy. I just had to make one tick in that particular point. So I will show you where to do your ticks and what to do for the exports, so that you can take all your materials for the jumping in between the programs. So this is also kind of what the stream is about, how to make a nice fusion of the different programs and a good workflow. So we got the world and the patterns already, and now the most important thing is missing, which is our character. And I'm always starting with the face for some reason. So we will also create some faces here, to use later in the experience.
Very interesting. I'm always starting with the left elbow. I think I'm always starting with the left elbow.
Pinky, no. Yeah. No, but I think also with the face, I'm always thinking of kind of emotions. So if you have no idea for a character, maybe a mood is already a good start to be like, okay, maybe I have someone who's grumpy, someone who's sweating, who's nervous. So this is quite nice actually to have that as a starting point in case you're just like, okay, what to do? I have no idea. Start with emotions, and I think then you already have kind of like a small guideline how to walk through everything. And also for those ones,
Sorry, people at home. There's like a delay between us, so I have to be a bit rude and interrupt her sometimes. Otherwise, when I start talking, like with a couple of seconds delay. So sorry about that. I just wanted to quickly say that Caroline said, I really like the color palette. And also Sean said, has like an underwater feel to it. And I totally agree with that. And they really like this one. And also welcome everybody who just joined. We are right now in Illustrator, and we are on our way to create assets, 2D assets at the moment, for 3D world. 2D. And right now we are in the process, Nadine is in the process of making a face for the character that will be seated inside that world. Right, back to you.
Because the idea is really here. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Sorry about that.
No, like the idea is really... No, it's fine. I mean, we're used to it. And I know that always like we have the bony of weird workarounds, but I actually enjoy it. So I hope the community is enjoying it as well. I really like to see Tim sweat and be nervous.
Thanks for that.
I do my best here to keep that tension. No, no, actually, I totally agree that for the 3D building, it always feels a bit weird, but as soon as you're accepting the world and it's, for example, over the colors, you already get the feeling for the atmosphere, like underwater, what can be included, maybe materials can be see-through. So I think as soon as you're just starting with a simple sketch with the very beginning, then you're on the road already into creating a really nice experiences. And also what you see here in my background, this was also made the same way, started in Illustrator with the drawings, and you kind of see some relation with the plants here in the background. So something like this, and this is really actually a part of the campaign for Apple, so they licensed it. It can be super professional, even though it's coming from a very simple and intuitive and very honest start in Illustrator, which is kind of the very base for me, at least as a illustrator and someone who loves drawing. And it can be something which looks quite next level, or maybe is next next level. I don't know. It's up to you to judge.
I mean,
But
to be honest, if it looks next level, well, then it is next level.
Yeah, it's true.
No, nobody cares if it was done with quote-unquote primitive tools. No one cares.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing is also to be kind of standing out of the mass, because the problem is, which I find with 3D, is that 3D artists are kind of all going in one direction or using the same aesthetics. But if you come from a different source, you have a more unique approach to the medium, and also then the output will be more you or more individual maybe. And even though we might all use the same programs, the combination of different workflows might really make it your own thing, or empower you to do designs which you haven't been thinking of before, which are triggering the next steps of visions. So this is how it was for me when I started with the residency. I didn't thought of me being a 3D artist, even though I did installations with sculptures before, but I thought of me as an illustrator, and I still do, but I feel very comfortable now in this new possibilities. It's just maybe like a new dimension to it, and I think it's super nice to just jump in there. And that's also why I chose like a very simple style and drawing here as a beginning, that people are not intimidated, because I get that quite a lot, that people are intimidated by 3D and by augmented reality in a big way, even though, especially with Aero, the workflow is so smooth and so welcoming, I think. That sometimes when I get invited for Aero workshops, I really feel like I don't have much to do, because as soon as you are there and you play with it, you have already the feeling to be creating, which is what you're doing. So there is no, like, the barriers are really low, and it's just fun.
Isn't that like the best workshop ever? Hello, my name is Nadine. This is Aero. Start playing with it, and I'm off. Bye now. That's like the best workshop ever.
That's actually what I do sometimes. And it's also the moment when the best works are developed, because you don't have the feeling that this is my box and I have to fulfill the task within this square or within this issue, but to really find your own voice, if that makes sense. And this is what I would really like to see also from you guys. So if you play with the assets we're creating here, they're in the link. Or if you're preparing your own drawings, I would be super excited to see them, actually. So please send them over or tag me if you post them. I would love to see what you can do after 19 minutes of, program juggling.
And that's actually a good point. I should probably share that link. Let's see if we can do it live, because I just uploaded the files earlier. So, oh, by the way, maybe in the meantime, while I do that, you can let us know what would be the next steps in the workflow, because I'm pretty sure we are almost at the end of the 2D workflow. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes. No. I think there is a lot for you to come, and you can spend hours on each, section or on each checkpoint, but we keep it short here. So after creating the 2D assets, we are prepped to go into the third dimension. But first we have to...
Sorry, that was me.
Thank you. No. First we have to jump over to Photoshop to have some clarity about our layering. I think maybe, I don't know if we should, maybe it's good to take a look at that as well. So maybe we can take a look at the Photoshop workflow.
Of course. Would you like to do that again on your machine? I think we can give that a try, perhaps.
I could do it, yeah.
Okay. Because we love live content.
Share, if that's okay.
Yes, please do so.
Let's try.
Will we see how this... Oh, hello.
We are.
There we are. 1 second. And
just shutting down
the video.
Illustrator.
Okay. Yes, we're good.
Opening the Photoshop.
And Jackie asks, will we see how this changes to 3D, to AR?
Yes.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, okay, yes.
This is the next step. So it's kind of like cooking. So first you have the ingredients, you bought them in a supermarket maybe, and then, or you harvested them, and then you have to chop them, prep them for the dish, and then we go for the cooking. And it's funny that with renderings, you also say that you're baking. So this is kind of...
yeah, right? It's like a huge cooking analogy.
It's a huge cooking. Wait, we open another one as well.
And quick question, Sean asks, some of these files are PNGs. Is that for transparency? And I can see already some transparency in your file right now.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes, that's a good point, actually. Since we jumped over to Photoshop, we prepared everything in Illustrator also to have the opportunity to have a transparent background. And we will export them as transparent PNGs in order to make them kind of like cutout stickers we can use later. It's just much more convenient. And as you can see here, everything has been transparent and layered so that we kind of have a feeling of how this world will come together later in 3D. And what I think is super amazing with Illustrator is actually that you can switch between the programs so seamlessly, and you can, like here in Photoshop, for example, just export for Aero. And this is quite new, so who is not working with that doesn't know about it. But this is the magic key we will be using. And I would recommend to do not more than 4 layers, or 5 is the maximum for Aero. And if you export it for Aero, it's optimizing the layers, which is super nice. And also think of it as a set. So if this is our main set, yes?
So you don't need to name them in any special way, those layers? They can just stay the way they are right now? Okay.
Yeah, because it will be one file in the end, which will be kind of like an explosion. Drawing will be blown up into kind of like a set design, really. I like to think of it as a theater. And I prepared 2 files for this one here, because I think it's really nice to have like kind of brothers and sisters to one experience. And this is actually not like a huge workflow. It's just importing the files from Illustrator. And since I use Illustrator kind of like a library, I like to layer them in Photoshop to have kind of one tidy, really simple file where I can check on all my layers, and then I click export for Aero. And that is super quick.
Excited. Yeah, of course. Yeah, please save your document. Already. People, saving is important. And
no, I saved it before.
Carol asks, no need to extrude first. No need to extrude.
No. We will choose a different approach, and let me show you how this is done. This might be the tricky part, so be warned. We try to do that here live, and if not, we switch to the recordings I made yesterday, also kind of live for you guys. So we're in the progress still of collecting what we need, and before we will go to this layering 3-dimensionality, we also have to work on our 3D assets, because first you need the ingredients before you start the cooking, right?
Yeah.
So actually, let me see, maybe we jump into this one directly.
And just quickly.
Yeah, so what we got now is... Yes?
Sorry again. Hashtag delay.
No problem.
No, quickly, because I can already see the question in the chat in my head. Some of you who haven't installed Dimension in the past few months won't see Dimension, maybe. They will see an app called Stager. So if you're looking for that, if you're looking for Dimension and don't have it installed already, you may have to look for Stager, just so you know.
Yeah, it's a good hint actually, because Adobe's embracing the 3D possibilities, and there is the Substance collection, which has different programs for you, and you're more flexible to work on that. Because the problem has been that you always had to jump into other programs, maybe use Blender to optimize your files. And I think it's really nice that actually for this one here, that there are new things coming, and you don't have to have this weird way of working around stuff. So this is kind of what we will starting at. And Dimension is a 3D software. It's in the suite. I think you maybe saw it or saw it as Stager. And we need our 3D assets to be done. So we started actually with the 2D assets. We made the kind of theater-like diorama settings, and now we are creating in 3D. And to simply show you, I will give you a small intro into the program. As you see here, we have different kinds of shapes. I hope you can still see my screen. It might have a delay because this is very intense, let me know. So here we actually have a collection of starter assets, which are quite amazing. So there's a lot we can do. Also, we have a lot of materials from gelatin, it's kind of like jello, or glitter. You can do a lot. Oops. You can rotate. So you have all the power. I really, really loved that when I was starting using Dimension. And I just want to quickly show you what we can do. For example, we have damaged glass here. It looks really nice, but you can switch into jello. All the materials are made super nicely. We even have substance materials which have a certain crispness to them. I'm quickly showing you. So this here is damaged copper, and as you can see, it already looks amazing. And up here you have the render button, so you can see kind of a preview how this would look rendered. I don't know if it's working from the speed,
There you go.
but it's really always a satisfying button. So I really love this render preview button. But actually our aim today is to only use starter assets and the 2D assets we prepared to create a very unique character. Because usually the 3D building is the complex part, and that's the moment where most people are intimidated or hesitant to really be playful, and we want to embrace that. So to quickly show you how amazing it looks and how quickly it is, we take a look here at the cloth back. And for Dimension or Stager, the idea was to kind of have a moment where you can do really nice mock-ups, for example, of, so this lady is actually what we will be building later. So it's actually made, or it was made for mock-ups to have kind of the moment where you can stage your product, you can have super high-res renderings of maybe a shoe you've been designing or a package design. And I think it has such a nice translation of the materials that I love to use it for my 3D creations. For example, let's make a chrome background, and we have scattered glass here, and if we render it, it already looks quite amazing. So this is a few simple steps. I could render this now, and then I already created in 3D in a few minutes. So as you might, I don't know, as you might feel it, the options are limitless. And I will quickly run you through the character creation. So this lady, she looks quite individual, and maybe you would think, wow, okay, it's quite complex to do, right? But she's actually made only using starter assets. For this one, I have to say that since we also want to animate her, she has to be very simple. If I want to do only an image, so the result will be a rendered illustration, for example, then it can be more complex. For example, here the hands are stars. To keep it simple for the rigging progress, I will show you later. But so this is kind of what we will go for. And important here is the T zone. So maybe you've seen it, she's doing the T. This is also something we need as a default idle, if you want to say so, or like a default posture in order to have a correct rigging later. And as you can see here, it's our materials on the different products. And I thought maybe it's nice for the stream to actually build her a friend or a companion. And this is what we will do. So the next, maybe 20 minutes, we will craft a new character and take a look at everything.
Amazing. But before we do it, I mean, you can already start doing that, but I have to answer a question which was looming in the chat, because people are slightly confused. Like, hang on a minute, there's Stager, there's Dimension, Stager is not included. Huh? How can I follow this? Not to worry. If you don't see dimension in your Creative Cloud All Apps plan, in the Creative Cloud app, of course, right? 2 reasons for that. 3 reasons, actually. The first one is you have an M1 Mac. If you have an M1 machine, you won't see it because it's not compatible at this very moment. Thanks, Apple. Sorry. No, and the second reason why you maybe won't see the Dimension app is because you haven't installed it within the past few months. If you have installed it, you will get updates as normally. And if you still don't see it, there might be a third reason, which is you haven't enabled Show Older Apps in the Creative Cloud settings. So if you want to enable that, you just have to click on your profile image in the Creative Cloud app, and there should be an entry called Preferences. In there, you should go to the Apps section and click on Show Older Apps. And if you do that, Dimension should come back to your Creative Cloud app if you are on a supported device. And of course, this option may not be available if you're on an enterprise account because some administrators may have disabled the option Show Older Apps. So hopefully that clears things up. So no, Dimension is not gone, it's still there, but you may just not see it by default.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's also the thing right now. Technologies are developing so quickly, you always have to relearn. And this is also kind of my take for you guys. We're in the age where you can't be an expert because things are moving so fast that you have to be a constant learner instead. So this is actually a big change also in society I'm witnessing. So the more actually open and maybe curious you are, the better, because in the end, it's really about how quickly you can jump into new possibilities, make them your own, make them your playground. And yeah, so this is kind of, it will be a maybe issue or a chance we will stumble upon constantly from now on. I think it's the most fast moving age after the invention of internet. And those are the moments where we're like, nice, back to zero and back to everything is possible. And I think that's quite awesome. And for the character building, to quickly jump back into our workflow, as you've seen here, I was just taking from the very basic models and built kind of like a drop with a swimming ring on it, like a security ring. And up here in the scene, actually, you have things like our environmental light and all the objects we put in here. And lighting actually also has some presets. You can find them down here to give the scene a very different atmosphere, or maybe you need to have a different spot. And the nice thing is that everything you touch here, you can also adjust that. So for example, for this ring, I have other options than, for example, for the sphere. I can change the pipe radius, for example, make it thinner, really adapt to what is possible. Also, I can play with basic sizing and be like, oh, maybe an arm could be like this. And the good thing is, of course, I can always quickly duplicate and be very quick in my progress. What is nice is, even though the starter assets are quite, how you say, it's quite a huge selection already, I think, you can do a lot with that. There's also the possibility to jump over to Adobe Stock, and there's a lot of 3D content here which you can download, and there are also a lot of free models, so you don't really have to invest as a first step. But maybe if you want to check on something and so like, oh, maybe let's see if they have free models I can just experiment with, here you can find them. So it's really a lot, and you can check it out and just add them to your library. And we will also check on those. The ones I show you here are also, I think, almost all free assets I downloaded from stock. And the nice thing is that you can also take them apart in their complexity. So it's really amazing artists who contributed those models, but you can not only copy paste them, but really integrate them into your ideas. So here we have an amazingly built bug, right? It looks super cool. And in comparison, our character maybe looks a bit weak. So what we want to do is, with this one actually, we want to include it in our character maybe because it looks very nice and it might give it a quite different tune. So let's see. We place it like that. That's a good idea. So this is freestyle. I didn't plan on this before, but it's super fun. So this model comes with a lot of smaller aspects, as you can see here. So I can go like, let's go rid of the legs. I don't need them. Maybe the back is also too much. The legs, too many legs. No need for the antennas. Maybe I will only go for the pincher. And that's really nice because not only can you use all the objects, but you can use parts of them. So now we have this kind of maleficent, I don't know. I don't know the English pronunciation.
Evil.
But now we have kind of like a headpiece, which looks quite cool, a bit diabolic, but we stick with that.
I can promise you no animals were harmed during the production of this live stream.
Yes. But that's the really nice thing, actually, that you can use everything. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's all right. It's okay. We have to live with the delay. That's all right. No, we did have some... we did have a question from Sean. Now it's gone.
Yes.
Where is it? I think he asked something. Okay. Oh, yeah, there we are. Can you use vectors in Photoshop and skip using Illustrator, since some people, not saying who, don't have Illustrator?
Yes, of course. You can do that. If you're more comfortable, that's totally fine. As long as it's a transparent PNG, then it's working. So you have to kind of make sure that it's working without a background. And as you see here, I have this sport bag, and that's actually also the skirt I was using on our character, which we will be animating later. So this is the sports bag.
No way.
This is actually, those are trees, and this is the shoes are actually clouds.
What?
So the shoes are made from, I think, oh yeah, there it was, from this cloud. So it's really nice how this possibility to use that program, which is actually more like to mock up or stage your product in a really good set, that you can reinvent it as a huge playground where you can work in 3D even though you have no experience in it at all. And I think it's quite amazing what you can do. And I don't know, like I really love it. It's also very meditative. I don't know if you enjoy it. I do.
Yes, absolutely. Just even that way you use this bag as a skirt, that was, I mean, such a great idea. Also, the people in the chat, they said, Jackie said, that's so clever. Kara said, oh my God, I would have not thought of doing this. Yeah, so that's absolutely fantastic. And people found dimension now that they enabled the older apps. So yes, that's awesome. So they can actually follow along.
Yeah, and the nice thing is, I mean, now we see that it still looks a bit like, I can still see the original, the origin of the different objects because they're not made into our personal ones, let's say. Mm-hmm. But we will change that in a little bit and make it our own. So this is kind of the major takeaway I would love you to dive into, to really make AR and 3D your own, and don't be afraid if you're not a sculptor or a 3D sculptor or anything in that direction, because there are possibilities to really make something which is so uniquely you that it's, even if you would have the same assets like I'm using here, I mean, you have them actually, you would build something completely different. And I think that's like a huge benefit of this workflow. Oh, I'm so glad that it's working, because it's so fun also to work live, and finally we can do it.
Yes.
Yeah, so as you see, the pine trees are now the pine trees are now super cool disco shorts. It's one of my favorites. Those ones.
Wow. Imagine
super
you had
nice,
those
right?
in real life.
And also it's really nice to find weird ways to sculpt something, because you wouldn't have maybe sort of pine trousers, but now you have, because you had only pines. So it's quite nice. And Actually, I think maybe we shouldn't overdo it on, yeah. And I want to show you because lately I used one super nice asset, which is free. And it was really weird at first glance, but then I thought, I think it's amazing. For the tarot card, I was showing you briefly on my Instagram before, like the character with the knives. I actually used this one, and it's a lung. Wait, I can show you here. It's a lung. So, but we can make the lung a super cool vest, actually, because I mean it's kind of like a vest, or maybe a skirt.
I also wear my lung as a vest. Yes. Who doesn't? It's very stylish.
I mean, it's only a lung as long as it's got its material. But if we make it jello, then it's not a lung anymore, maybe.
Of course.
So I think it's really nice how playful you can be. And maybe what we can also check is the material. So you just click on them and the material gets or the object has the material here. So here are our lungs, and there are two parts, veins and lungs. And let's go for the lungs, and here you see the color. So you can't, it's not that you have only red gelatin. You have gelatin, but you can do a lot to it. You can make it blue, or you can give it more glow. You can add some metallicness on it. And let's take a quick look at the renderer. Looks quite next level already. Also, the shoes are yellow. So it's quite amazing what you can do.
This is indeed something very special. Not only have you repurposed lungs as an asset, you have also made them jello and used them as a vest. And you know what? It works. Somehow you don't question it. Like, yeah, that's a vest. All right.
That's the nice thing. You really make it your own, and then it is your own. And I think that's the nice thing also here, because you have the same base, but your personality forms the asset. And I think that's really a nice approach. And then, yeah, I think you feel also more free because...
This must be super weird for people who are joining just right now, like... Oh yeah, we used this asset and we made a jello lung, and yeah, no big deal.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's a bit, let's say, we're thinking out of the box here. So we have now pierced lungs as a vest, which I think is quite cool, and pine trees as disco trousers, and antlers for the face. But actually we wanted to use our colors, right? We prepared some assets. So let's use them.
I almost forgot about them.
Yeah, you can really get dragged away with this one so it's really like, it's endless, of course. So as you see, the face or the head has no information yet. Mm-hmm. So we will jump into our faces, and maybe you can choose which one.
We could do a vote in the chat.
You have to choose.
Perhaps.
Or we can do a vote. Which face to choose?
Okay, you know, how about
you have as much fun as I do.
Can we do? Because actually, I always wanted to try this out. We can do chat votes now. Mm-hmm. So could you somehow open them all at the same time, so we can have them all visible next to
Of course. There you go. Now they're black because they're transparent, but you get the feeling of it.
Okay. Yeah. So, in the chat, please type vote 1, vote 2, or vote 3. No spaces or lower letters. So vote 1, vote 2, or vote 3 or vote 4, of course, in the chat. And we will see if that all works. Hopefully, I've never tried this before. Chat votes. It's exciting. So, to vote, which face we would like to use? Vote 1, vote 2, vote 3, or vote 4 in the chat. And they're typing 1 in the chat.
And the nice thing, those faces are also... Sorry. Those faces are also in the package, so you can also use them at home. Oh, sorry. Maybe I should share it longer, right? Oh.
Okay, so...
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Do you have a favorite, Tim?
I don't want to influence the vote, you know?
That's true.
I feel like... All right. So far, vote 1 is winning, and it's actually working. Yes. Vote 1 is winning.
Nice. This one?
The first one, yeah. So yeah, just like Caroline and Galina and Andreas typing in the chat, vote, no space, and then the number, which one you like. 1 on the top left, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, let's wait just a couple another seconds, and then we'll pick the winner. But it looks like, I mean, vote 1 has the majority. And it looks like that's not changing. Right, 1 it is.
So we have a winner. It's this one, right?
Yeah. I mean, I like that
winner.
One too.
Great, thank you. Thank you for participating.
Thanks for participating, everyone.
So
this was
now
a first try to see if the chat feature works, and it sort of does. Maybe I have to be more clear next time. Thanks for voting.
Thanks for voting. We will get used to that when we did some lives like this, I think. It's also very experimental since there are not many 3D lives as they're always crashing the servers. So bear with us. But super happy that you jumped into this experiment. So I'm just dragging it here. Simple as that. Did you see it? I just dragged it from the Finder, and now I have it as like a sticker. I can move it. I can also be like, oh, maybe it has to be a bit rotated. Maybe it's a bit too wide. So I have a lot of possibilities here. I can also play on roughness, etc. And as you can see here, our motif, it's here as graphic 13, but we still have a material. So we can still add kind of like a plastic look, for example. Let's see if the face is gone. No, it's not. So now it's shiny, but we could also go for copper or wood or stone, and it's still keeping our design. And I think that's quite great that you can really dive into different possibilities here and create beyond what you would have thought of if you would have created the figure or the possibilities in your head before as a concept. So the intuitive workflow here really makes the difference. And I don't know, what should we take for this one?
Let's do a vote.
Maybe fine grain. Let's do a vote.
Vote 1.
We can do like the democratic stream. So
I don't think we have the time for that. We only have like 27 minutes.
Yeah, we have to stop soon actually, because otherwise it will be too like the time will be up.
Vote 23.
Yeah, so let's go for blue leather. I will quickly wrap this up from the material so we get a feeling for the figure. So some speed progress here.
So it looks like that character needs some moisturizer in their face. Their skin is quite dry.
But you're not sure about it. You always have to check the render preview.
Of course.
See?
I never do that at home.
Yeah, but as you can see, it looks... I always render myself before going out now. Yeah, but as you can see here, it's a super nice model. Actually a cool character. I mean, the hands are missing now, but we don't have a lot of time left, so we will jump. But it's a cool colleague for the lady. Oh, we didn't do the pattern. I think this I have to show actually.
Yes, please do.
So I mean, it's the same from the progress.
We did have a question from Jackie. Yeah. Just dragged from Finder, do you have to select which object it's going to first?
Yes. Yes, you have to select that first, and you have two options. You can choose decal, which means that the face, for example, is kind of like a sticker and you can move it, or you can choose the filling option, and then it's kind of wrapping it around your object. We could even do that with the lungs to give an example. I mean, they're see-through now. And if the patterns would be see-through, so if the background layer would be not there, You could even do that to the layers actually, like to have a see-through layer, kind of like with the face. Yeah. So we have kind of like a bug-like outfit.
You can add more than one decal on one object, as far as I remember, right?
I think you can, yeah, but I never did that really. But as you see here, our pattern turned out super cool, kind of like a bug wing suit.
It's really a
cool
weird
character.
hybrid of all different kinds of materials, and I love it. And Tony also says, this is exactly how I look at the weekend in my long vest. Yeah, who doesn't? Next song, Tony, long vest.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. Now we have to hurry a little bit because it should be also about AR, and we're getting lost in the dimensions of the Stager dimension program. So here, this lady actually is made with the face and all the materials you find in the package, and the patterns on her dress. And as you remembered, this was the sporting bag. And for this one, actually, I could mark it all, like select it all. Oh, sorry.
And it's gone.
I flew away. Where am I?
You can always go, I think, via view at the top, and you can say frame objects.
Right. View one. I also
like that.
Saved it. Yeah, you can save views here, actually. Yeah, which is good if you want to render like a proper image or illustration. But we are not finished in dimension, so we take those models up. Sorry, I have a delay too, so it's like dragging a little bit. So I'm selecting her. I hope it's working. And then I can go to File, Export, Select it for Aero. Wow. So if I have a static model, for example, if I want to use her like that in AR, for example, our antler guy, I can just select it for Aero and it will optimize my model. I have to say, if it's a very complex model, which might be the case with our friend over here, who has a very eccentric style of, let's see. Yeah, so his clothing might be too expensive or too eccentric to export, but we can give it a go. And then it's actually checking if it's less than 50 MB, and then it's optimizing it for Aero. You can still export it if it's bigger, but it might take longer, or it will be just not an optimized asset to use for an experience.
Right.
As expected, this one is quite complex. You can get rid of some of the materials, but here you can also see the difference why the lady is a bit more reduced. I will export him anyways. Why not? Because we can maybe work with that later.
And
all right.
Caroline says,
now we're done here.
Caroline says pancreas pants would go nice with a long vest. And also we have a question.
Yeah, it's true.
We have a question from Adrina. Do we have to set the camera first, like in Blender? And also says really cool workflow, by the way.
No.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, the view, you can always reset the view. I just didn't do it after we checked on it. So you can save any view as a new viewpoint, even do like different shots around a model, for example, if you want that. Mm-hmm. And also you can render them all as different views. But wow, now we jump over to Mixamo.
But for
it's also part of the
But for AR we don't need to render, right? For exporting to
No, rendering would be nice if you, for example, you do a Christmas card in 3D and you render it and then you print it. So it's kind of like to really make a crisp image of what you've been staging in Dimension or Stager.
Gotcha.
So this is the progress. If you want to have a high-res image, you will render it. But since we want to have an experience, not an image, we have to bring it to life, which leads us directly to Mixamo. Some of you might know it. It's part of the Adobe family and it's browser-based. And you can upload your character here. I did that in advance. And since we have not much time, I think I can just talk you through. So we have the T-pose. You upload your character. And then you declare what parts of the bodies are wrists, ankles, the chin, in order for the algorithm to auto-rig your model. So it makes the skeleton inside, and then you can give your persona, all the movements of the library, which are endless. Maybe one hint, which is important, I can quickly show you. Let's check if I think I have to upload it newly. To actually optimize your materials, and this was a question before, to take them with you on this journey, I jump into Blender, which is free. It's always starting like this. We did delete this one.
Interrupting again. Sorry. Adobe has just joined the developer fund. Oh God, don't quote me wrong on that. Developer fund something for Blender as like a gold sponsor. So that's super exciting.
Oh.
Echt? Ja.
Wow. That's good, because I think Blender, I mean, it's free, but I think it's really annoying and very complex. You can do a lot, but I understand why people
Blender,
are a bit
free
fed up with it.
Annoying.
I mean, it can do everything. And if you really know it, but I don't know. So what I recommend is I just imported the lady I saved before. And then you get rid of the camera. So to have nothing but the lady. And then you go to File, Export as FBX. And then here it's important to click here, Copy, and this small folder. So it's copying all your materials. Otherwise, you will have the model in white. And it's not knowing where to put which texture, but we set it so nicely. And then you press Export. I did that before, so we can head over to Mixamo, but this would be the workflow that in order to animate and take all the material with you from Dimension, you have to go that way over Blender to make it an FBX instead of only a 3D model. But as it sounds, this will be optimized soon, and I also think it's really making sense, because then the workflow would be even smoother. Yeah, and once you have it here as FBX, you can actually give it all the different movements. Let's make a poll. No, I'm just clicking on one to give you an impression. Yeah. Yeah, so for example, now our lady is running, or she can throw something. Yeah, you can actually also choose quite fixed poses and export this. For example, maybe you created your model, but you want her in different poses, and it's really a pain to remodel that. And that's also complicated in Dimension or Stager, since you have no possibility to touch the verticals, like the points of the 3D objects. But in Mixamo, you can just give it the pose you want and then put it back to Dimension, for example, or to Aero. And this is super simple, because then you only have to build the T-pose once. And then, yeah, you can give it all the different shapes. It takes a little bit to upload, but I think it's paying off big times. Especially the dance moves are really sick.
I'm just, so you know, I'm just showing the recording, because that's a bit smoother with all the movements.
Yeah, okay.
Much better to see. And the person is dancing right now. Yeah, if you want.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, then I stop my share.
Ooh, there we are.
And I also stop Mixamo, because it's taking some capacities to upload and rig in real time in the browser.
And we're streaming at the same time, and that's quite a lot of stress on the machine. Yeah. So right now we are looking at the character dancing and having really a lot of fun, apparently. And
a good time.
This whole rigging process, I think we went into that also a bit during the other stream, did quite a while ago. So will we talking about that today again, or what's like?
Yeah, I think I also have one recording where you can see it.
Oh yeah,
in case this was troubling, there is another one. Yeah, and also sometimes it's the progress that you uploaded a few times, and then you have to check. This is how you upload it, and here it was a little bit too complex from the hair. And then you have the ankle selection, and it's asking you to define the skeleton. And you can choose also different finger options. For example, maybe you have a character who has no fingers, or maybe like 3 fingers or whatever. So you can choose that down there. And then you actually identify the parts of the bodies as the correct, how you say, anchor parts for the algorithm in order to rig the body in the right way. This is sometimes a bit sketchy, because the program is not really accepting if there is like weird clothing, or if you have antlers, it's a bit confused, like what this is, like maybe not hair. So sometimes you have to adjust your model if it's saying, okay, this is like we can't accept this as a humanoid skeleton. Maybe you have to do adjustments. Yeah, but here there was we thought it's cool. Actually, the hair is the top of a bonsai tree from the stock selection, but it was too complex. So for this one, for example, it said no. Yes. Yeah.
What's happening now?
And maybe actually, I think I was just mixing the stream there. I think it's fine. Maybe I can take over and
Okay.
we can take a look at it in Aero desktop.
Let's
And
do
I
it.
can try to share my screen.
Yes, please.
If not, I hope all of you don't mind if we jump on the recording, because as said, to stream a 3D AR workflow, it's a bit a lot for a computer. So I hope you see my screen right now. Can you see
We
it?
are. Why is that so big? Hang on. Sorry. We also had a question in the chat while I scan this down. There we are. What format do we have to export from Adobe Dimension before we import it to Blender?
It's a GLTF. So if you export it for Aero, or if you export it as a model, it will be a GLTF. Like you can choose different ones, but this is like the regular 3D model, which has a placement for the pattern. And that's kind of like a basic file. You can also have an OBJ. OBJs are most of the time without a wrapping or without material. So with GLTF, you would be sure to include as much information as you can from regarding textures or images pattern you use for the model. So it will be a GLTF. And then you throw that or import that into Blender, export as FBX, and this goes to Mixamo. And in Mixamo also there is a button save or export for Aero. So it will there again be optimized, which also means in Mixamo sometimes you'll lose a little bit, for example, from see-through materials or for reflective materials, because shading is a whole nother topic. And Mixamo is reducing it, of course, to have to be able to play the animation. Yes. I hope you see my screen. Let me know
yes, we can indeed. And also, Alex quickly says there's a Substance 3D add-on for a beta for Blender to work with Substance 3D material.
Yeah, that's also great. In general, there are a lot of fusions happening right now, because I think that the 3D demand is really going up high since AR is on the table. And also for me, I just learned 3D in order to be more flexible in the experience building. So I think there will be a lot of more easy approaches to exportation, to, I don't know, a dynamic workflow between the programs, as we also heard now from Tim. This is also coming regarding Blender. So I think it's quite nice that things will get easier. And I think for me, for example, it's easier already to start with 3D now, I think, than for a person starting 5 years ago. So it will be more approachable, I think.
Okay, so we're now in Adobe
I hope you see
Aero. Yes, and we can see it.
Aero. Yeah, you see it. Okay, perfect. Yeah, this is a Aero desktop version. We will take a look into both versions, actually. And I can quickly show you how to build a scene there, because this stream is actually about augmented reality and not too much about dimension. So this scene here is actually built from all the assets we've been creating today. As you can see, we have our mountains, the display we've built before. Our 2D assets are part of the model. And I also added some starter assets, because in general, the idea is here that you can create an immersive scene like that with everything you got already. And this is kind of what I want to go for. For Aero, I have to say, we have here also kind of a library of abstract shapes, also animations, letters, same like in Dimension or Stager. There are huge libraries, so even if you didn't touch Dimension or Stager before, you can still build a scene only with Aero. So Dimension makes sense if you have if you want to do something customized. But still, there are a lot of possibilities only within Aero. For example, I really like to use Aero for animation because I don't really like to animate in 3D. And we will take a look. And it's kind of comparable. So also here we have a scene. We have the horizontal surface. You can also send declare the anchor as a surface anchor on the wall, for example, or an image anchor. But we were choosing the surface as a first step. And as you see here, we have all our assets, and we can also blend them in or make them transparent, and we can just touch them. So this is actually our Photoshop file. And as you can see here, you can just play with the layers. And if you go down here, it's a bit on the corner, I hope you can see it. You can really blow it up or make it flat again. So if you import your Photoshop file, so this is a layered Photoshop file, and if you import it, it looks like that. And then you just give it some space. And that's it. And also you can play with space, angles. Yeah, with overlaps. Of course, you can also build something completely new. If you create some overlaps here. So now we have a totally different scene than what we created before. That's why it's always nice to kind of work in small groups. So for example, we had a group of 2 now for the mountains. And yeah, you can really like tier them like in a bigger distance. You can change the angle even of the different layers and really build your scene as you want it. And as you see, it works quite nicely. And the same goes also to include other objects. I think you've seen it in our workflow from Dimension. You can basically just place things you think are interesting or fitting for your scene by tapping on them. They will be loaded on your 0 starting point, and you can just include them like this. Yeah, include them in your set. And I think it's a good combination actually to work with 2D and 3D, because to create a background like that, it could also be a greeting card. It can be a poster. This is quite quickly done because it's the Photoshop, and then you can just drag it in and make it into a scene. And I think that's not enough. We should play more with it. And as you see here, this is our character. And if you click here, you can actually give it an animation. So the animation is from Mixamo. It means in the beginning, I start the trigger. I have the option to choose that my animation will start when the experience is starting, or that it starts only when I tap on the figure, or if I enter proximity, which means if I approach it, it will play the animation, which might be super nice. For example, it could be a flower, which is growing as soon as you approach it. And I think those are really immersive tools, actually. Yes. And what we want actually for this one is to play the animation. So we have a lot of options here. We can hide it, we make it spin, we can play with audio, and we go for play animation. And this is the animation from Mixamo. It's directly here. If you have a lot of assets, you can also choose the assets and be like, okay, I want to play an animation, but on the knot or on the sphere. So you are flexible here to choose on which object you want to apply the animation, but we want to stick with our figure here. And you can control the speed, if it's transitioning, if it's infinite, back and forth. And then with this one, you can take a look at it. Let's see. Ooh. I think I put some delay. Yeah. Wow. So now she's floating. I think this animation is quite nice because it's something which can happen all the time. It's not getting boring, and she will do this infinitely. And that's super cool. But I think it's not enough. I also added a rotation. And here you can kind of see the rotation. So she's just like super slightly going a bit forward, just to give the feeling that it's not a loop, static one, but it's kind of like movement in the sphere. So to add more natural, like a natural feeling, I added the rotate animation, and it will actually play both animations at the same time. And you can really like choose the angles here, how long it is. I like to choose really long animations so they feel very natural. And also I make it infinite. And then if you take a look at the preview, you can see that first she's floating, and when it has its first, like when the animation is gone for one circle, then she should transition into the rotation. I think she's doing that now. It's super slow, but as you can see, she's turning slightly, bending over.
And what is, I have a couple of questions. What is the difference between rotate and spin? I see two actions down there.
Yeah. You can, with rotate, you can also have an aim. For example, you can say it's rotating around an object. So you can have something in the center, it's rotating around it. And if you have just the spin, the anchor is the figure itself. But I wanted to have kind of like a off-centered movement. So I chose rotate. And here with the subject, you can also see which subject it's relating on. So this is quite nice. And also I put a spin here. So I have a double. So it's rotating and then it's doing the spin. This is what you saw, which was kind of like a drop.
And
so the model itself is spinning and then it's rotating kind of like this.
Right. Yeah. Quickly, sorry. There is another question. One we have talked about earlier during the stream. Which is all about extruding, because now those shapes, like those mountains, plants and everything, are quite flat. And if you wanted to have some 3D, could you extrude them in Photoshop, or would you do that in Blender, or where would you do that?
Yeah, you could do both actually. With Photoshop, it's quicker, but not really optimized. So with Photoshop, you sometimes get an edge, or also the verticals are a bit complex in Photoshop, which means that the mesh, you have to think of it kind of like the cell structure. It's very dense, which means the object is quite heavy from how you can play it. And this means it's slowing down the progress. So you always want to have very simple models, especially for augmented reality, because they play in real time. And if the experience is too big, you can't really play it. So I would advise to do that in Blender, which is a bit of a pain. What you could do is that, for example, you build the trunk with Photoshop or Illustrator, maybe add some gradient to give it some depth. And then you can add, for example, the leaves out of bubbles or out of clouds. So you could do a combo here and build kind of half 2D, half 3D for the set, which might be a bit easier.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
I'm afraid we're almost at the end of the stream. So
okay, I wanted to show you one more thing, maybe, if that's okay. Just one more thing. For example, for the background, I put some audio, play audio, and then nighttime. It's here in the audio presets to also have kind of like a music embracing the scene. Okay, and maybe we can take a look at it outside.
Yeah,
we can check if it's working on my. Yeah.
I can load the video file. That's okay.
Then I stop. And I'm sharing my screen. Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Let me know.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Stop. Yes.
Oh, wow, that's funky. Look at that. That's nice. Live design. No,
this mode.
Just have to load the outside file. Or should we stop it inside or
maybe
outside?
What's.
Hello? Still there? Oh, there we are.
I think maybe inside. Both are too long. Because for, sorry. I would start right, maybe.
My connection is unstable? I don't think so.
We try.
Hang on. I got this.
We try our best.
There we are. All right. Okay.
Can you still, or is it?
Yeah, sometimes
problematic.
Just the internet doesn't like us, but that's okay. We're playing the video.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
So right now we're sitting in your living room, I assume, or your studio, and you are placing the file in the world and scaling apparently some of the scenes. So just like you did in the not dimension,
Yeah.
sorry, in Aero on the desktop. And
Can you still hear me, or
yeah,
is cut off?
you know, I can
Yeah?
hear you.
Okay. Maybe I can turn off my camera. Should I try? And then the sound is better. Can you hear me?
This is live, folks. Nadine, it says that. No, okay, that's perfect. There we are. Okay.
I try. Is it better?
Looks like it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you hear me? Okay. Yeah, this was to showcase how to adjust in with augmented reality of a relation to the room, actually, because it has a different sizing than doing it. We can. Oh, no.
It's all falling apart. Well, we are over time anyway. We're over time anyway. That's fine. We will have.
Maybe you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
You can hear me possibly.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I just wanted to say that.
No, I can't. Oh no. All right. Well then.
How something has to be is really.
Well, that's what it is.
Maybe Tim.
Yeah.
I'm not so sorry. Maybe we can video with sound.
I assume you said we would like to play the video with sound, and I will do that for you. I will do everything to get that back. So let's go over to the video. No, that's not the right one. I would like to play the video from outside because that's super fun. There we are. Okay. So we couldn't find. Oh, there we are. So now we are sitting outside, and we're essentially doing a very similar thing. So placing the objects first. First, you have to scan around a bit to see the world, so Aero understands where you would like to place it.
Yeah.
And Reverb Mike says, "This is how I in phone converse with the grandma." Yeah, reception is super. And beep.
Oh, sorry.
It's Eurovision all over again. It's fine. It's fine. It's live.
Weird.
That's how you know it's live. All right. And now we can actually look. Listen to that. We can actually hear it. That's fantastic. Now we can hear this sort of this nighttime scene. I love it. We can walk around, and it's. I like how it's all sitting in the real world. It's so much bigger, so much larger than just having like one object on the desk. And like, yeah, that's cool too. But this is it's so fun. And in the chat, they also say, "Wow, this is crazy and so cool," and put a coin in the meter. Come on, guys. And amazing, they're saying, why would I want to see animations in my garden? To have fun? Of course. Why not? All right.
To celebrate a birthday, maybe?
Yeah, precisely. Could have a virtual birthday cake with an animation. Yeah, hear me out. So if you get close to it, the top opens up and a present comes out. Wouldn't that be nice? And you can tap it and like, wow, that's super fun. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
For example.
Sorry, go ahead.
Also, it can be educational. You can maybe. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah. Yeah.
We try. Yeah. For example, it can also be nice as educational thing to maybe use it for a history and play some AR in the garden. This feeling of I can really do a story. You can hear it. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
I see everything super nice.
Yeah, I think your internet, maybe you're uploading something, because on my end it should be fine. Who knows? It's the internet. Nobody likes us out there. That's okay. I think with that, I
stopped everything. It's really weird.
Sometimes the internet is just like that. Maybe I can get that image hidden so we can at least see you in some way. Let's see if we can do that. Well, that's at least something. All right. Okay.
And try.
Well, thank you so much for
Can you see
joining
me?
us, everyone. It was super great seeing a deep dive
It was
into AR. And Nadine, I don't if you want to say anything before the internet cuts out entirely.
yeah, I think it's always super cool how you lose yourself and the possibility. I'm super excited to see you all diving in there and discover actually do, and that everything is ready for it. I love to see designs, see what you can take. If
And
you
hopefully,
can.
yeah, and hopefully you not only lose yourself, but hopefully you don't lose the internet connection. You only lose yourself, because that's. Anyway, it is time for us to say goodbye for today. So, Nadine, thank you so much for joining us. It was a really fun time. And also thank you everyone in the chat at home who has participated, voted in our first chat vote. Yes, at least that worked. And one last question. When will Aero make it out of beta? Unfortunately, can't answer that one. A, because I don't know. B, if I did know, I couldn't tell you. So, sorry about that. It's still in beta. We will let you know as soon as it is no longer in beta. All right. And with that, I think it's time to say goodbye.
Thank you a lot.
And,
goodbye, everyone. It was really a pleasure.
And we will see you again on Friday with the next Adobe live stream from the UK. So from all of us over here, have a wonderful rest of your day or night or morning. And see you soon, everybody. Bye. Now you say goodbye. Or not.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.